Hello and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sport for today's Premier League Round 28 review. Another interesting weekend. Arsenal 8 points at the top. However, no match for Manchester City this weekend, who were playing in the FA Cup. We'll also have an FA Cup review up very shortly, so keep an eye out for that as well. As we start to get into the business end of the season, but also a very important last weekend of club football before we go into our first international break since the World Cup, which ended in December. So we've literally had almost 3 non-stop months of club action, which is pretty unprecedented. And for some clubs, I think it's coming at the exact right time, and for other clubs, maybe at the wrong time. But it's going to be very interesting to see, because obviously during international breaks, we often see injuries. We often see some people coming back from injuries. So it can really affect a team positively or negatively. And always important to sort of go into the international break with a little bit of momentum, because if you don't, then, you know, if you have a bad result, for example, you then have to almost sit there waiting 2 weeks before you be able to sort of rectify that result. Before we look at the weekend that was, please do smash like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. Let's have a look at the results, shall we? And things will go underway on Friday night as Newcastle beat Nottingham Forest. And that's quite an important result, actually, for Newcastle, who the last couple of weeks and a month, or have sometimes sort of dropped off a little bit. You know, they're playing some tremendous football over the season, and really still are challenging for potential Champions League football next season, but maybe haven't been particularly consistent in the last couple of weeks. So important for them to just be able to sort of brush up aside smaller teams. Villa beating Bournemouth 3-0. It's very interesting. We're actually sitting here after 28 game weeks, and the race for the relegation has never been so close, in that there have never been fewer points between 12th and 20th in the history of the Premier League. So, I mean, how exciting is that? In that we're going to be in for an incredible relegation battle. Leeds United beating a 10-man Wolves 4-2 on Saturday, and Brentford drawing to Leicester despite going into a red card as well. A massive result. Spurs versus Southampton 3-3. Antonio Conte set to leave, it has to be said. I mean, he came out and absolutely hammered his side, and basically sort of lambasted them, said that they're not serious, that there's actually major issues in the ownership, and that, you know, they've got all these various managers, but nothing ever changed, that players are selfish and stuff like that. It's kind of the Conte, disaster class stories kind of happens when he gets very frustrated at places where he doesn't feel there's ambition, or where he doesn't feel he's getting support. He ends up coming out and saying these sort of things, and he often doesn't last particularly long. So that was very much the result of the weekend. Chelsea being held by Everton, though. Everton really trying to keep their relegation or chance of survival up with some very interesting results. They beat Arsenal. They've now drawn to Chelsea, and Sean Dyche is a man who knows how to get results when the pressure's on. So very keen to see how Everton might be able to scrape their way up into that safe spot. And then the final result of the weekend was Arsenal beating Crystal Palace 4-1 to go 8 points clear. So if we look at the top of the log, Arsenal sitting on 69 points. After a little bit of a bubble, they've now gone to they've won the last 5. City obviously dropping in points. That was quite important. They could have been on 63 points. They would have been 6 points behind with the game in hand. Manchester United are 90 points behind with a game in hand. The title race is off. But I think more importantly for United is that they've got 2 games in hand in the likes of the Spurs. So they were to win those 2 games, they can go up to 7 points clear of 4th place. But Newcastle, however, have got 2 games on Spurs as well, so they could actually go above Spurs. So that was why it's an important victory. When Newcastle have those games in hand and need to try and win, they can put themselves back in Champions League football. Liverpool as well, needing to really up the ante a little bit. They're going to try and sort of sneak into the Champions League. They've got a lot of work to do. But more important for me, the more interesting battle really lies in the relegation, doesn't it? Now, Everton are all of a sudden above the relegation zone. They're sitting on 26 points, just 2 points above the drop. However, West Ham have got 2 games in hand. Forest have got a game in hand. Leicester got a game in hand, as well as Bournemouth. So all these teams can go above Everton right now. But you can see it in the recent form, a draw and a win and a draw, picking up 5 points out of the possible 15 in the last 3 is you can see in terms of the other sort of the relegation form, they're very much on the up, where somebody like Leicester, for example, could be in a lot of trouble if that form sort of were to continue. But again, we're talking about 12th place, 27 points, just 4 points above the drop. So all these teams are firmly in the relegation battle. You think that Aston Villa has already done enough to escape it, really, and Chelsea probably also okay. But yeah, so it's a very interesting sort of section of the season when you consider so many teams could still go into the drop, and you look at the form over there. Lots of teams really struggling. Really, but I think it's been an interesting Premier League season in that all teams are dropping points left, right, and centre, and with the exception of Arsenal, who just continue to be superb. They've also been knocked out of the Europa, so they will literally only play Premier League football for the rest of the season, compared to a City, United, for example, who's still in sort of in European competition. So yeah, let me know what you think, what this table's going to look like when we eventually do get back to action. It will be in April. We've got Manchester City versus Liverpool, huge game there. Arsenal versus Leeds. Leeds now sitting sort of also still in the relegation battle, so lots of pressure on them. A couple other games: Palace, Leicester, Forest, Wolves. Big games there. If you hear the likes of Newcastle, Manchester United, that's a huge game in terms of the top 4 race, as well as Everton, Spurs, a big game in there as well. But John, let me know who you think who's going to avoid relegation. That's what I want to know down in the comments below. Please do smash like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Stephen. I'll chat to you soon.